Hi everyone. This might be a giggly episode because I'm out here by the pond and you can hear the frogs are going nuts. I hope that it doesn't bother you to the episode. I hope it's something that you enjoy. I just couldn't help but get outside and enjoy the weather while it's a little warmer and listen to the frogs. So they're going to be joining us for this episode. I'm surprised they're still going because usually when I come out here they stop for a while, but they just keep singing. You can see the water behind me, how it's moving. It's because of all the frogs floating on the water. Welcome to the Ninja Chickens channel. My name is Maria, and this is a mostly knitting podcast all about fiber and the fibery crafts that I do, and sometimes we'll talk about homesteading and outdoor things. I do have some fun homesteading things for you at the end of the episode. I feel like I'm screaming over them. Let me see if I can show you. It's pretty hysterical. You see all the little dots on top of the pond? And then back over there. They're laying eggs right now, which it's going to get cold again. It always does. They always come out around January or February, and then it gets cold again. But the eggs, sink down far enough that they seem to do fine. And then we have lots of frogs in the spring. So you can find me on social media as ninja.chickens. That's on Instagram, on Facebook, and Ravelry. I'm Ninja Chickens, and there's a Ninja Chickens Ravelry group, and all the show notes are at ninjachickens.org. Today I have some knitting for you. I also have wrapping up and starting another knit along. We're going to talk about a few acquisitions that I got, and then chat a bit about some things that have been happening on the homestead. So right now I'm actually coming to you from the kids' treehouse. I thought it would be a fun place to sit. It's really cloudy right now. The last few days have been very warm considering it's February, but also very rainy, so the sky is really overcast. And I thought this might be a good place that provides a little shadow so you can see the works in progress and stuff that I'm doing. Let's start actually with finished objects. I think you know one that I've finished. This is my fern and feather, my second one. I knit this out of Briggs & Little yarn. It's their Regal base, and that color's coming out pretty perfect. It's they're red and light gray, and I love it. I can already tell this is going to be a much more hard-wearing sweater and much more long-lasting sweater than this one. This one I did from a yarn that I had spun out of Cormo and alpaca, so the diameter of the fiber was much thinner. It's much more fine, which makes it softer, but also not as hard-wearing. It breaks more easily. It pills more. I've already de-pilled it many times. It's super soft and cozy, but it's certainly not going to last me as long as this one, which it's slightly itchy, but it doesn't bother me. I wear a shirt underneath it anyway, and it feels like it's gonna wear well. What I ended up doing with the hem and the arm rim, what is that called? The edges. Instead of doing what the pattern called for, which was 2 inches of ribbing, is I did a few rows of ribbing and then I knit and bound off. And so it ended up being a turned hem. And I thought it might be nice to have a little something different than what I already have. So you can see how that looks. And I like it. I think it came out well. I was a little bit worried before I blocked it that it was going to flare too much. And it didn't have anything to do, well, it really didn't have a whole lot to do with the edging I chose. It had to do with how many increases I did for the hips. I think I did a few too many, and I thought about ripping it back, but once it was blocked, it looked fine. So I'll go with it like that and see how it does. But I like it. I think it's a fabulous pattern. It's a bit of an addictive pattern. It's called The Fern and Feather by Jennifer Steingass, and pretty much anything she makes is, I mean, beautiful. They're all beautiful yoked patterns, but they seem to be addictive. Most people make more than one. So, excuse me. So that is that. The next thing I have for you is something I hadn't talked about before, but I had been hoping to do, and that is an 8x8 swatch for Melissa of Knitting the Stash. She has a podcast, Knitting the Stash, and she's got a project going on called the Knit Together Project. And what she's doing is asking knitters to make an 8x8 swatch, or an 8x8 square, basically, out of yarn that is special to them. Their soulful yarn, or yarn that has a story behind it. And I've been wanting to cast this on and just hadn't gotten to it. So I thought when I was done that sweater that this is what I was going to do. So this is, it's 2 different colors. This yarn is the yarn from the Navajo Churro sheep that I talked about many episodes ago that live not far from here. A friend of mine got the flock very soon after she moved to this area, and they needed a shearing and they needed some tender love and care. But there was not a shearer, a shearer available at the time. And it started, all the cats are coming up in the treehouse. There's 2 of them up here right now. It started getting warmer and warmer, and the shearers were not available. They were busy elsewhere. One of them had been injured and couldn't get around. And one of her sheep passed out in the field from heat exhaustion. So she gathered her friends, shepherdess friends and farmy friends, and decided we were all going to do it ourselves. So it was a group of ladies who came out, and none of us had ever sheared before. Well, one I think had done alpaca. But yeah, we took care of the 18 sheep in about a week. It should have been a one-day thing, but we didn't know what we were doing. But they enjoyed it. You know, it was a slow shearing process. Usually we'd lay down with them and shear one side and then gently roll them to the other side. But it was really amazing, and they seemed to enjoy it by the end. They'd usually be dozing in our laps. So these are the 2 colors of yarn that we got. There were lighter sheep and darker sheep, and we mixed 2 batches of a light yarn and a dark yarn. And so I wanted to knit this up from that stash. And I did a pattern that I felt like reminded me a bit of the Navajo yarn weavings that have the traditional Navajo yarn weavings. And I don't know if you can see. There we go. It's kind of a parallelogram, back and forth, like a wave. And I thought that would be good for a Navajo Churro yarn. So anyway, this is going off to Melissa, and if any of you are interested, it's ongoing right now. She's going to knit all the 8x8 squares together to make one big blanket, and then draw a name from everyone that's contributed to win the blanket. And if she gets more than 1 blanket's worth, she'll make more than 1 blanket. So I think that's really cool. And all the stories will go to those people who have, the person who wins the blanket, so they know where all the squares have come from. So those are my 2 finished objects. My work in progress, after I finished those, was I didn't feel like casting anything else on. I felt like making a little progress on just one thing, a mindless kind of sit and knit thing. So I picked up my granny square blanket. I had not worked with this in a long time, and I put a lot of rows on it. So you can see down here where the little charm is. That's how much I've knit since the last time we talked. Or the last time I showed it off, I guess. A bunch of rows. And it's going to be a queen size blanket, so it's really big. It's barely going to cover the toes yet. It's going to be massive by the time I'm done. What I'm doing is every 4th row is a color of madder dyed yarn. So this one, this one, this one, this one, and on up. I'm using the 20 skeins that I got from a class of dyeing with madder a few years back. And once I've run out of those, I think I'll probably put in some other colors that are also naturally dyed yarns and try and go with the scheme of like a gradient of every 4th. I think it looks nice. I'm starting to get into the brighter colors, so this one is madder dyed, and this one also. and you can see they're starting to lighten up a little. So that's what I've been doing with this one, and I really like it. This is a worsted weight one, and I am using this gorgeous hook from the Bee Queen collection. Let's see. It's a size 4, and I really love how it feels in my hands. It's light, it just moves well. It makes quick work. So if you're looking for a handmade, high quality crochet hook, I would definitely recommend them. They're hand turned. Her husband turns them on a lathe. They're hand turned, and then she carves out the hook part of it. Another thing I'm doing with that project, so that I remember the colors of the matter, is that I'm putting 5 rows on just a little knitted scarf, kind of. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I guess about 7 colors of matter in there. It's hard to tell the difference between some of them, but when I'm done, I'll have all 20 colors in a little swatch, so I can see the colors that I dyed up from that class, because I'm using almost all of it, so I won't have any left when I'm done with the blanket, and that way this will have the memories of that class and the colors in it. Okay, I yelled at the frogs and told them to be quiet. They're not listening very well. So, I showed you my finished objects and my one work in progress right now, and I wanted to talk with you about the knit-along. We finished up the Colorwork sweater knit-along, and the sweaters are amazing. You have to go and look and see what things put in. There were so many entries. I was really surprised how many people wanted to knit, not just one, but some people 2 and 3 sweaters. So the knit-along ended on the 31st of January. Yes. And I drew some names for the winners. In the chatter thread, it was number 33, Iril Knits from Norway, who knitted the Boverton kofte or cardigan. Congratulations. And from the finished object thread, we had 79 sweaters, which is awesome. And the 2 winners were number 78, MJM from Wisconsin, who did the cardamom sweater, and number 56, Prairie Firebird from North Dakota, who did the Ron pullover. So congratulations, ladies. You all knit beautiful things, and I was really excited to see everything and encourage all of you to enjoy and knit your sweaters. So thank you. So one of the things that was discussed in the chatter thread was a few people were really interested in doing a colorwork skirt knit along. So I thought that might be a lot of fun. The more I got to thinking about it, it might be fun to just do things that we would wear on our bottom half, because I don't know that I've ever seen that kind of a knit along. So we're going to start the knit your bottoms knit along. It can be pants, it can be shorts, it can be underwear, skirts, any kind of leggings, any kind of adult, not adult in that sense, but knit your bottoms in an adult size. How about that? So we're going to start that. I was thinking maybe March 1st would be a good time to start that one. So start looking at the patterns if you're interested in finding something that might be enjoyable to you, and gather your yarn, and we'll get started then. And it'll last 2 or 3 months. I haven't decided everything yet. I'll put it in the Ravelry thread, so it has all the details, and we can knit our bottoms. How's that sound? Hey again. So I decided to move. They just kept getting louder and louder. Usually when people are out there, they just stop, and you have to stand real quietly to get them to come back out and make noise, but they just kept going. So now we have the chickens to deal with. You can probably still hear the frogs in the background. Anyway, hopefully you're enjoying my springtime. So I talked about the knit-alongs and the knitting objects, and now I wanted to talk to you about some acquisitions, and then I have a couple videos for you of things that are going on in the homestead. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is something that I got in the mail. It is the Vogue Knitting Ultimate Knitting Book. And this came out sometime in the 80s, 90s. The first edition, gosh, I don't remember. The first edition was a while ago. It's been redone this year. And that's why Vogue's been sending it out to have people take a look through it and see what they think. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know a whole lot about Vogue and knitting. The most I knew about Vogue, I never got Vogue magazine when I was a kid. I just knew that Madonna sang the song Vogue that I liked. So when I thought about Vogue knitting, I don't know if I've ever seen a Vogue knitting magazine. So I was curious when they sent me an email and said, would you be interested in taking a look? This is how we've changed it up and made it more current with the times. So I said, sure, I'll take a look. And I have to tell you, it's a really cool book. I mean, it's fabulous for beginners because it's got the basics of, you know, different cast-ons and bind-offs and different basic techniques, but they've got brioche in here now. They've got different types of cable stitches and, you know, funky stitches. And like knitting socks and different types of heels and toes. It really does encompass a lot. Like, it's a really good knitting encyclopedia, I would say. It's got how to make a shawl and different shapes and different techniques, mosaic knitting, doing bobbles, cable knitting without a cable. Like, it's got so much information. I'm trying to show you. And then just basically like, what's a circular needle? What's a double pointed needle? What's a cable needle? Stuff like that. Understanding garment knitting instructions so you can figure out what size you really should have. You can't even see that, can you? There we go. There's charts. How to do different style shawls. It's really good. Like, this is what I now go to YouTube and the internet for. I've gotten so quick to forget how nice it is to access our knowledge from books. Like, when we were kids and we used to go to the library and look everything up for research papers in books. There was no internet to look things through, and this is really nice to pull it out and be like, oh, let me take a look and see, how do you do that invisible horizontal seam? Well, it's in here. So yeah, I just wanted to show this to you. I really think it's a great book. It is, well, you can tell it's big. It's a hefty book. $39.95 in the US. And I think that's a fair price for everything that's in here. So yeah, if you're interested, I'd go to Amazon or go to one of your bookstores and see if they have it and check it out. Because it's got a lot of information in there. And some of the newer stuff that they added, I know she said there was brioche. Oh, they've even got like Judy's Magic Cast On in here, so I don't have to keep looking it up every time I need to figure it out. They added shawl design and construction, hat, glove, mitten construction, lace knitting, mosaic knitting, brioche, entrelac, double knitting. All that stuff has been added to this, and that's stuff that's been, you know, getting really popular over the years. So I say check it out. Thank you very much for sending it to me, Vogue, but it's a nice book. I'm glad to add this to my collection. Another thing that I got was I was chatting with Hannah Lisa Haferkamp, who you guys may remember. I had mentioned her, and Verena Kors, who, gosh, it was probably my first or second podcast, put out Making Stories Woods, which was a fabulous pattern magazine, but also had lots of information about yarn and people, and it was just a really nice read. Well, they have put together a digital magazine called Socks, and she offered to send it to me. And I'll tell you why this was so timely in just a bit. It's called Socks 2018, and it is not just sock patterns. I mean, the sock patterns are gorgeous, but you guys know I'm generally a vanilla sock person. The reason why I was so interested in this, Making Stories, and I'll try and put some better pictures in here for you. The reason why I was so interested in this was because all their socks are knit with non-superwash yarn, which I think is pretty cool. A lot of people assume that when you knit socks, you have to use a superwash yarn or a yarn with nylon for the strength, or so you can throw it in the wash. But there are, people have been knitting socks for many years before there was ever superwash, and they just chose the right yarn to be able to knit a sock that would be sturdy enough for wear. Excuse me. So, so they talk about that in here. They, all these patterns. I think there's 7 patterns. That's Merlin. I think there's 7 patterns, and all of them use non-superwash yarn, and there's a different yarn for each. So they talk about each yarn and why that's appropriate for a sock. They talk about sock construction. They have interviews with the designer as well as the yarn dyer. So it's a very informative magazine about sock knitting, if you're interested in sock knitting. And yeah, I thank you, Hannah Lisa, for sending that to me. I really enjoyed it, and will probably be trying some of the patterns. There are some really pretty ones in there, some with lots of design, but there's a couple of them that I thought, ooh, I can maybe do that. I can handle that. There's just something about using those little needles and doing all those little, I don't know why that bothers me, or why it intimidates me. But I do want to give them a try because there's some really beautiful stuff in there. So Hannah Lisa was kind enough to offer a copy of the socks digital magazine for one of you guys. So if you want to leave me a comment below and tell me if you have ever knit socks with non-superwash yarn, and if you have, what you thought of it. And if you haven't, just say, I haven't. And if you don't think you'll like it, you can say that too. But tell me about socks and superwash yarn and or non-superwash yarn and your experience with it in the comments below if you are interested in winning a copy of the socks 2018. So part of the reason why I was so excited about that magazine is because I have something to announce to you guys. This may look to you, well, it might look like a white stripe on the screen. It may look like a standard, there we go, sock blank. Yes? It is not. This is the culmination of many months of searching. I finally found an eco-processed superwash yarn. It's not superwash, but it can be washed in the machine. That is a sustainably processed yarn. And found a woman who knit sock blanks who knit them for me. So now I can finally offer you guys botanically printed sock blanks that are not superwash. Now, I know that superwash has its place. I have superwash yarn and I knit with it occasionally. But the more I knit, the more I really like to try to go towards non-superwash yarn, because I know that the chemicals that are used in the processing of superwash yarn, because they strip the scales off and then coat it. They strip the scales off with a chlorine chemical that then pollutes the environment when it's released. In fact, I've even heard that it's not allowed in the United States, that it's processed elsewhere, the water's dumped elsewhere, and then the US brings it in, which that tells you how bad it is. And then it's coated with a plastic so that it can be washed and won't felt together, right? So this is, let me see, I got all kinds of information sent to me about it. This is a process, so first it's certified organic wool. So from start to finish, it's treated organically. The animal, the farmers, everything. It's a process called Exp Treatment, and it's being done right now by a company in Germany, Schuler, I believe. And what it does is, yes, the German Schuler company, Schuler Spinning Group. So it's, instead of using a chlorine, it uses natural salts that are supposed to be as the oxidant, that are supposed to be non-harmful for the environment. And then it's coated with a biodegradable polymer. So they're still washable, but not harmful. And I think that's awesome. So I was able to find this in the States in cones and then sent it to a woman who made them into sock blanks. So it's quite a process, but I'm super excited. I just got them last week, so I have not dyed them up yet, but I'm going to give it a try. She was even nice enough to, she watched the podcast when I contacted her. She's like, oh, I know who you are, which was so cool. She was even nice enough to remember that that I like the sock blanks knit more tightly because it takes the print better, and offered to knit them on the knitting machine that way. So, and it's almost the exact same gauge. It's a fingering weight yarn. It's almost the exact same as the one I'm currently using. It's a hefty fingering weight yarn, which I like. It's 100% wool, but she even said as she was using the knitting machine that, you know, the more she knit with it, the more she liked it. It's sturdy. So I'm excited to dye these up and give them a try. So I'm hoping it's probably going to be at least a few months before I have them. I've got a bunch of blanks from the last batch that I need to get into the shop and get rid of those, and I'm going to try and dye these up hopefully in the next month or so. So yes, and the next release of the sock blanks, the ones that you saw on that circular thing that my husband, the star thing that my husband made for me, that is going to be February 21st. That's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. So if you're looking for sock blanks, those will be there, and that's the ones that I've been carrying. These probably are going to be March or April at least, but super exciting. I don't know of anyone else who has non-superwash, eco-treated sock blanks. So I'm really excited to offer these to you guys. Then, wow, it's been really busy couple of weeks with all kinds of stuff going on, but really good stuff. And I'm hoping that some of it will settle down now, just so that I can take a breath. But it's been, with everything going on, it's just been, with my birthday, 2 of the cats turned 3 yesterday. It's Leaf's birthday next weekend. And with the sock blanks and some patterns that are coming out, a lot has been going on. But it's all been really amazing stuff, and I'm excited to share all that with you. The last thing that I had to share is that Leaf's book is out. Officially, it is published on next Monday, the 19th. But it's up for pre-order, and I've actually started sending some of those out that will get to you by the release date. It is, well, here it is. It's called Giants in the Clouds. And it's fabulous. I absolutely love it. Look at that. So the poem, I mean, I'm proud of the poem. I like the poem. It's a cute little poem, but man, these illustrations, that's what makes it. I think it was illustrated by Giada Rose, who is a artist up in New York. And she did it. She made them perfect. She helped, you know, walk me through all the process of how this works. And look at that. And I think it turned out amazingly. Leaf was really excited. I gave it to him early because I couldn't wait for his birthday. He opened it up and he was like, "It's the book!" and got super excited. He read through the whole thing. It's not like it's that long, but you know, he just opened it, just sat there and started reading. Didn't want to talk to anyone until he was done. And yeah, I can't believe it's actually physically here. It's you know, it's a poem that I wrote a couple years ago, so it's just kind of crazy that it's in my hands now and headed all over the world. There's some people in Australia who bought, Germany, Canada, Ireland, and then all over the US. And I can't believe you guys are going to be reading it soon. It's really exciting. So it's available anywhere. It's self-published, but because of how I did it, you can actually get it anywhere. You just have to, you'll have to ask. If you go to an indie bookstore, you just go in and say, "I'm looking for Giants in the Clouds" by Maria Mascarello. They'll have to order it for you, but they can get it shipped either to you or to them. You can get it through Barnes & Noble and through Amazon. And you can get it through my Etsy store. If you do order through the Etsy store, then I can sign it for you if you want me to. I can sign it to someone if you're giving it to, you know, a grandchild or a friend or whatever. And I can send you a little bit of swag. I do. I have the swag. Let's see. I have a bookmark. A Giants in the Cloud bookmark. And then one that is the size of a postcard. And that's Kaya being tossed in the air. That was part of the poem. And that's Leaf sleeping in his bed. You can do it, computer. Focus. So yeah, if you do want the swag and the signing, you have to order through the Etsy store, because if you order anywhere else, they actually send it to you directly. So I don't ever see it. So yeah, and if you do get it through a big box company that you can leave reviews, and you would leave a review, that would be really amazing, because that helps get the word out that other people like the book. And I don't even know if you actually have to order from them. I think you can read it and still leave a review of it. I don't think you have to order. But anyway, that is some of what's been going on. I am going to do a giveaway for probably a couple books. Maybe I'll do that on Leaf's birthday, but that's going to be through the Instagram account. So watch that account if you're interested in winning a book. And I think that's mostly it. We've had, like I said, the weather's been pretty warm lately, considering it's the middle of February. We're only a little over halfway through winter, so this is a warm snap for us. The cold is probably going to set back in again. But the bees have been out, and the sap in the trees is running fast, and so I have a couple of little videos at the end for you about some of the stuff that we've been doing on the farmstead. So I hope you all are doing really well. I will talk to you again in a couple of weeks, and let me know what you've been up to in the Ravelry group or in the comments below, and how things are going. So it was really nice to see you guys today. I hope you enjoyed your visit here. If you liked the video and wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, that would be really great, because that will help others who might like similar things to find it. It will appear, my video will appear in their sidebar. And if you want to know when the next video comes out and haven't subscribed yet, then hit subscribe and you will get an email when my next video comes up. I hope you guys have a fabulous next couple of weeks, and I'll chat with you soon. Bye. So this is our big maple tree out in front of the office, and one of our little cabins here. This is Justin, our neighbor.
Hi.
And here we have
about 2 gallons of maple sap from this. Fairly certain this is a silver maple. And it's been just dripping. Drop by drop, filling that bucket. I think we probably emptied it 2 days ago, so about 1 gallon a day.
So you've dug a hole into the...
Yeah, drilled it.
You drilled a hole into the cambium, is it?
Yeah, through the cambium. I think the hole was maybe 2 inches deep. And then this is made out of sumac. I just harvested a stick of sumac and hollowed it out. And this is what it looks like. So they call these spiles. That's the tap. And you know, I just made sure the hole was a little bit smaller than the spile so that it would fit really snugly, and drove it in, and then it just started dripping. And the reason I did it here is I actually saw all these sapsucker holes where the tree was actually dripping a lot of sap already, so that's a good indicator that that tree is
you can see just looking at the tree that that spot is a darker spot on the tree where things are dripping. And so this is a good time of year to gather the sap.
Yeah, the typical weather you're looking for is night times where it drops below freezing, and daytime temperatures where it gets pretty high, like 50 degrees. So it's that temperature differential that drives the sap flow process.
And it starts the flow moving up through the trees. Like they're waking up for the spring.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so January, February, March, I guess, is kind of the window.
So can you do any tree?
Well, this is the first one I've ever done.
But I know I've heard of tapping black walnut and birch trees too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and hickory trees, pecans.
It's just that some give more sap than others.
Yeah. I think that the highest ratio of sugar to water, highest sugar content of any of the saps is the sugar maple. Has something like 30 gallons of water to 1 gallon maple sap
syrup,
you'll get
sap,
out of
yeah,
it,
okay.
your syrup you'll get out of it. Whereas I think sugar maple is something like more like 1 to 50 or something like that.
Or the silver maple.
Yes, silver maple. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with other ones in between, and the flavor is like out of this world. It's, you know, I love maple syrup, but this is like
the fresh stuff is delicious.
It's just really amazing.
Do you have any right now that
really
we could
floral.
see?
Yeah, I'll go get them.
So that's what you've processed so far.
Yeah, this is some of it. We've given some to friends and used some, but it's you know, cook it down as much as you want. If you keep it refrigerated, it won't ferment, and you can have, you know, you can use the sap just like it is without cooking it down at all. Use that as a base for tea, and you don't really need to add sweetener.
Nice. The color's beautiful.
Or you could ferment it, and yeah, then
Trying
cook
to
this down.
Zero into it better.
We did this. We just left, you know, used a short, wide pot on the stove. Short, wide pot, so you could evaporate as much liquid as possible.
Cool.
And then just on the wood stove, and then, you know, took it the rest of the way on the gas stove. Yeah.
And the bees are out today, all over the hazelnut tree. Some people call it a filbert. You see them all? They're gathering pollen to eat since they've depleted their winter stores. If the mockingbird won't sing